Hi, guys. So I'm just going to pick up where I left off, kind of at the end of the last video, which was we'd finished our our flyover of the user interface, where some of the commands are. We haven't really dived into what they do, but we've definitely kind of just tried to uh, get familiar with what what the user interface for CAD looks like. So now I just want to spend a little bit of time, and towards the end of that last video, I also show the difference between a line and a polyline. So I've kind of covered those two commands, and they are going to be massively used. Um, like I said, I feel like with line you have a little more limited functionality, and with polyline you have a lot more functionality and the ability to join things, um, different shapes, and create a closed shape. And so, I mean, there's just some strategy involved in that we'll develop over how we use CAD. So I've covered line and polyline, and so the next one is circle. The idea is that it's not always the drawing the ways we have to draw is not always like it's not always like the shapes we choose are perfect and they're good just how they are and we move on. Sometimes we just use shapes and pieces of shapes to create the form that we're looking for our particular object. So it's kind of a usually our usually our finished kind of objects that we're showing are they can be several pieces of all kinds of different drawing shapes. So they can be some lines and polylines and parts of circles and whole circles and rectangles and different arcs. So we have these at our disposal because sometimes the shapes we are creating end up being a bunch of different pieces of all these uh, figures that I can draw. So for a circle, I have a huge drop down list on circle because strategically I can place circles based off other geometry sometimes. And so, I mean, like the go-to ones are probably the first two on the list. They're that center radius and a center diameter um, type of circle. So center radius is exactly what it is. It wants you to pick a center of the circle and then specify the radius. So if I choose this one, and usually whatever you use last is what's going to be up on the with a lot of these icons that have a drop down menu next to them. Whatever you've used last is generally what's showing in the showing. So if I chose this, it's probably a center radius type circle. If I just choose the so it just says specify center point of circle. So that's just a matter of a right click to just if I have my dynamic input on or if I'm following my command line, it says specify radius of circle. So it really wants you to draw a circle by its radius, which is from the center out on a circle. It's given in a dimension. I can also so I can input a dimension. What you'll notice is once I've clicked the center of the circle, what is active on my screen is the dynamic input if I have it on, where I can actually, use the number pad to type in a number. And so if I'm and it also works that if I specify the center and start pulling out, uh, you can see that those numbers are starting to show up anyway because it's keeping track from my center out what that distance is. And those are in inches. And it looks like my default right now is set up for a 4 decimal place input for the radius of this. So I can specify that just by pushing let's just say I'll make a 2 inch radius circle. I could input 2 and then I would hit enter and it would really exit my command when I hit enter. It'd be like, okay, cool. I just made a circle that is 2 inches from the center out. And it's in this place of my model space because that's where I clicked first. So it can be moved from there, and that falls under the modify area. So we'll talk about that later, but that's just a center radius circle. Um, it doesn't spit a dimension out to me, so I wouldn't know this if I look at it what that dimension is. I have some tools available to me on the ribbon menu to look at what that dimension is now that I entered it. But what if I had you'll hear me say fat fingered it a lot. What if I had actually put 2.5 or I had actually double digited that and I didn't put the right numeric number in when I entered it. And so to check what that is, I use this utilities menu a lot on the ribbon menu. It's clear. I think maybe default is clear over to your right. One thing I didn't mention while we were talking about the user interface is these palettes. These are called palettes. Like the ribbon menu is broken up into different palettes. Okay, so I can move them around. They're not locked in necessarily. So a brief little thing I'll show you is that if you grab the name of it down below it, it's where the expandable list is, but it's also where I can grab this thing and change the order of these if I want. So I can move my utilities around a little bit. Maybe anyway, I think it lived here at one time. Yeah. If I liked my draw command to be somewhere else, I think the way I have them arranged from draw to modified annotation, I believe this is just default. I don't think I've shuffled those around a lot, but while I'm talking about those palettes, you can pull them. It seems funny that this is kind of a long ways to go, right? From model space to ribbon menu if I'm using the point click method of choosing commands. So, this is a little bit of like if I'm doing this all the time, oh, maybe I can speed up my process if I'd move a palette closer to me that I was using all the time. I don't usually use this technique, but it's available to you that these palettes can be pulled down. So the draw usually lives over here, clear to the far left, I think. Yeah, I think so. And I keep moving them around. It doesn't want to go back there. No, it's actually I've got a hold of it. There we go. I think that's docked in there nice. What it's showing you is that I can actually have control over this to move it, not only slide it around where it lies here on the ribbon menu, but I can pull this thing and place it into my drawing area. It did pull the whole panel down, right? So now I have it right here. This can like be strategic. I can dock this in other areas. Docking just means I don't have to keep it floating around out here, but I can actually dock it um, into to stay in areas in the model space. I just tend not to use this technique a lot. I just want to show it. These are movable, and there's ways to send them back to the ribbon. I think way over here, teeny, teeny, teeny on the left, sorry, on the right, is return panels to ribbon. So this also includes its like, expandable menu with the other icons that we haven't got into yet, but essentially, if I escape here, if I click this upper right, it goes back to the ribbon menu. So, I mean, it's, they're totally customizable, movable. I leave them just kind of where they are. We have this other, when I talked about the user interface, I did not mention the navigation wheel in the upper right, which does it shows me that I'm kind of drawing on maybe what's considered a top view. I don't get that confused with top, right side, and front um, at this point, because if I do move this navigation wheel, and this is totally like I can actually move it and rotate it around, and it does rotate the whole space to where now the X and Y coordinates have kind of moved. It is moving this in 2D space to rotate this around. I generally like to keep this to where X and Y are in the right orientation, especially for this initial drawing that we're doing. And I just keep it on the top plane of that. Uh, and I don't rotate this around to here. It's going to look like my line went flat because it's really moving me into a 3D world, which that circle would look like a line if I rotated to what is considered a front view. So don't like I will use this for top fronts, right side views in a 3D atmosphere. For right now, I'm just going to draw on the top view as an X and Y being in there, kind of like, yeah, the definitely traditional way of X and Y. So that I just wanted to mention that. And then and there's more to this than that too. I mean, I don't want to go too deep into the weeds here, but I do have um, a drop down arrow that I can change some of the what this is visually going to look like slightly. It's going to have some impact on my imagery that I've drawn if I change the perspective. So I don't want to go into that too much, but there are some menus over here. The home just takes me to like a home that's actually in a 3D home. So I will use the home a lot when I'm working in 3D just to get back. Like if I've rotated this thing around and I need to get back to a home, like I've kind of lost my orientation, I can click home and go back to home. In this case, it's not the most ideal option to get back to square one. I feel like top is the best way to get back to kind of the home view. So there's my two circle. There's this. This one is also not lit up, but I feel like this has a little bit more 3D functionality as well. There is an orbit mode. I think I can, a full navigation wheel. Maybe I can undock this and move it over. There's a pan. I use my to pan, which is just like clicking that mouse scroll wheel with that little hand that shows up. I generally don't use go into this command to pan, but it would work. It would make your right click on your mouse be the pan and grab button. So the other thing I was going to say is you'll learn on the zoom. I didn't discuss this in user interface, but you'll learn on the zoom that wherever your cursor is and when you zoom in or out is kind of where it drives to. So, I mean, if my hand's over here, let me escape that command action, just have my cursor. My cursor's over here and I zoom, it didn't go into, it didn't keep everything squared up. It kind of zoomed to where my cursor is. So if I'm out here and I zoom in, that's kind of how I like zoom in and out a lot just to get my things how I want them to modify them or whatever I'm doing. So just want to point that out. The zoom function is kind of driven by where you are with your. That's why it's easy to get things like disappear on you like this. You're like, I don't know if I need to go in more, out more. It's totally lost. You just double click that mouse wheel. It'll bring you to like a zoom extensor, a zoom all, bring everything that you've drawn into focus. Then you can kind of carefully zoom out from there, pan around if you need to. But I'm doing this a lot. I'm doing a lot of zoom in and out. I'm doing a lot of panning around. I'm putting these objects where I need them to be to modify them. I'm zooming in sometimes really close to make sure everything's are joined and connections have been made. And I'm zooming out to get an overall look of what everything. So, you'll get you'll get used to this, driving it just like you would drive a car. So circle out. And if I needed, what I was going to say is on the utilities palette, you do have this like quick measure. I like it 'cause it's just measuring tape right there. I use this all the time. You could type in a key code if you want to, but this is where this kind of command lives. Like a quick measurement kind of just gives you this like weird orange crosshair to where it's like a lightsaber or something, wherever you, how's it going?
Oh, better than yesterday.
Yeah, all right. So what I was saying is the quick measurement option is like a lightsaber, right? Whatever I cross it's gonna start spitting me out dimension.
All right.
But we should be rolling here now. Sorry about that. It's gonna be back to the measurements. This quick measurement is kind of handy. It does like it's spitting out the only measurement that's really associated with this. It's spitting out that that's a two radius, 2.00 radius. So yeah, this I use. Sometimes I use this when you have a lot of content in your drawing area. It can get kind of busy because it's going to be one of measuring wherever from your pointer wherever you are. But and so you can get a little more accurate if it's specific things you're looking for. So the drop down, I can choose a distance, a radius, an angle, and even if I choose a radius, I can choose this, and then it kind of gives me some other options. It gives me the radius, diameter. And so I tend to use if I actually know what my shape is, I might not just use the quick one, but I might use this. So this is how I verify stuff, especially until it's dimensioned. I don't necessarily know, so I don't always see if I've made errors on my inputs when I've placed stuff if I've got the right sizes without doing a little bit of checking. So I use this a lot. I'll use my measurements a lot to verify that I've drawn correctly sizes. So that is circle from a radius out. The interesting thing is, I know it says center diameter, so I can do one like that. I'll just pick a center. Maybe I'll use my polar tracking to snap over here and keep it on the centers lined up like this. That means if I see that polar tracking, it means they would line up. Not that it has to be, but you can just see that it's already wanting to know the diameter of this one. I think it's saying specify the diameter. So if I say 2 on this, that's a 2 inch diameter, 2 inch radius here. So this one ends up being 4 inch diameter. So it's half the size here. But that was just by diameter. Even if what I want to show, so that's a circle by diameter. Even if I choose center radius circle, which is usually my go-to for a lot of circles, it's center radius. But when I select that and I pull out like I would, or if I put in the if I put in the input for the circle, well, you can even change a center radius to be designated by diameter if you're paying attention to your command line. Because on my command line, I have the option to say for diameter, push D for diameter. So it might be that I choose this command and I hit D and then I hit enter. I know it says specify radius of circle, but I'm actually putting D as the input for diameter and enter. And then it knows that I've actually switched to a diameter. My command line says specify diameter of circle. So if I said 2 here, essentially I'm using the same function to do both. You know, if you're watching your command lines, you've got those ability to modify the command that you're in. So, okay, I think that's center. Oh, those are circles, diameters, and radiuses. What else do I have? A 2-point circle. So it's going to be first point, first endpoint of circle's diameter. So I think this is going to specify a circle by uh, across the diameter. So it's giving you're kind of specifying it by diameter by 2 points that would pass through the midpoint, be considered the diameter. So maybe I'll say that this one's, I don't know, 6, and I just actually I was watching the cursor input to see that I did a 6-inch diameter circle here. If I use my measurement tool here and selected that 6-inch diameter. So that's good. What else can I do with a circle? I can do a 3-point. So I think it's going to be specify first point on circle, specify second point on circle, which I think is the diameter. I can't remember. I'll do 6 here. And then the third point of circle. I don't know. It's not one that I use a lot. Look like building a solar system here, but what else we got? Circle, tangent, radius. Oh, yeah, okay. So this one will work with what I've got. So say I want another circle that's maybe tangent. Tangent means um, it's going to touch. Like a tangent point is going to be a point of that one object touches the other. Interesting, to me, when we say this, I'm going to draw the circle that's tangent, radius, means I'm going to have like two objects to go tangent to, two features on an object. Doesn't have to be circles, could be a line or something. So there's a lot of things I could come tangent to. It doesn't have to be two circles like I'm going to draw, but I just need to have like two features that I'm going to be like touching, and then I'm going to specify the radius of this. So if I choose this in this case, and I say specify point on object for the first tangent circle. Okay. That's good. I'll choose this one. And that is what the little symbol that's coming up here, the little circle with a line. That's the tangent icon. The reason why it's showing up on mine for sure is and if it's not showing up on yours, it could be your object snaps need to have tangent selected. I think this is overriding all my other snaps because of the command. Like I do, like if I actually exit this command, let me show you. If I exit this command and I go to my object snaps that I actually have toggled on, I have all of these object snaps on. Generally, I should be able to get these, but because my command is specific to tangent radius, it's kind of going to override my object snaps and say the only one where I like on a circle, I could be like having an object snap that wanted me to snap to center or snap to a quadrant or somehow, I mean, this has different grips that could like supersede tangent, try to get me to go to that grip. And that's the idea of, I mean, we have these object snaps for good reasons to be able to snap specific features of objects and hook them together. But sometimes they can get a little bit too many going on at the same time. And so this command already knows I'm going to turn off all your object snaps and know that you're just looking for a tangent snap here. And that's why all I'm getting here is a tangent snap on one. Second point of tangent, I have to really watch my command line or whatever to know that I actually did do the first thing, which was select one object. Now I'm going to select the other with a right click. And now it knows that it's going to keep whatever I do tangent to those two. Unless the radius in this case, if I specified was too small and it couldn't span the difference between those two, it couldn't bridge the gap, then it probably wouldn't allow me to drop this. So, um, and maybe it's showing me already that 5 is my minimum to be able to get that touching together. So if I do like a 6-inch radius here, then we would put this in as a 6-inch radius and to those two, which means if I really could zoom in here all the way in, there would only be one point between the surface of this circle and the surface of this one. There would only be actually one point, one coordinate point, one X and Y value that those actually touch each other. Even though when I zoom in here, it feels like there's a lot that touch each other. No, actually, the concept of tangency means that, you know, in math, we would say there actually is one coordinate point in space that point of tangency is. And this has established that point there, and it's established that same relationship here. So tangent. radius. Yeah, if I undo that real quick, I just want to test this myself. I was going to undo my movements, but there's my circle is gone. I just use my undo, Control Z if you like. I'm going to pick the same thing. I'm just going to say, yeah, it was this one. It was this one. I noticed that it had five as the minimum. If I entered four, oh, it will do it. I don't know why five. The reason why I had five is because it was the last like input that I put. So sometimes that's also what's doing it. The cursor will be inputting the last. Be a five. But four puts more fun. Five. Yeah, that a point five. That circle does not exist. It actually shut that out. Circle does not exist. It was. I think I had a point five tangency or a point five radius that I was trying. Yeah, it's not possible. So it doesn't. So it's just kind of like it just terminated that idea. Last one. Tangent, tangent, tangent. So I would have like three. So this would work good in this case. Like here's a tangent, tangent, tangent. It doesn't need me to specify radius at all because the the existing features are going to bind this circle's diameter and radius. I don't even know what it is. I just know that I had three objects that I needed to build uh, a tangency to, and it's great. I can measure the actually radius at 2.7. Okay. Those are all my, those are all my, so arcs have the same arcs. I don't even use all these, I don't think. I use a lot of I do some arcs. You'll find that you probably don't use the arc selection a lot on the show for a while. I think we do circles and chop them up more than we do like actually establish an arc itself. But so maybe I won't go through all of these. They all have just a different command sequence of what they have different geometry that I might already have to do, which is why I would choose them together, because I'm working off of existing geometry. So if you feel like start center end is a nice one, right? Like if I say start center end, so now here I'm picking up my other grips because this one, this is a quadrant that I was going to show you grips. You become familiar with what these different symbols that I have options to. There's a tangent one, there's another quadrant, there's a center. It looks like a crosshair, kind of goes green with a circle around it. And that one is a perpendicular. I think that's perpendicular to the center. I'm not sure what exactly that perpendicular is picking up, other than maybe through center that's perpendicular. How you verify what those are is down here in your O snaps list. It's these, and they kind of give a little picture. But I think if I look at my object snap settings down at the bottom, it's like another menu within a menu. This one I like because it at least shows the symbols that are going to show up in relation to what what object snaps are available on that geometry. So even though I have these all turned on, it doesn't mean that circle is going to necessarily have a midpoint snap that it could grab. It'll have the circle will have quadrants for sure, and it will have center. And those are really the ones I'm picking up, but I am also picking up a perpendicular one that's and a tangent one. So I'm picking up a few, even though I have them all selected. What I'm saying is if your geometry doesn't really have that as an option, well, then it's not something that will show up in your object snap ability. But so what was I doing? I was doing an arc. I was doing escape this command, liquidity command, but I think I was doing a 3-point arc, which is specified start point. So I'm just going to take that just in there and then specify second pointed arc. And here I'll just go, and then it's one we specify and depending on how I roll this, how I move my cursor is kind of a way. And so working with arts can be complicated. So center start and yeah, 2-point arcs. Yeah, a lot of options there. Okay, next shape for draw is different polygons and rectangles. So rectangle, really handy. We do a lot of rectangular parts. I do a lot of setup with rectangles. So the traditional, like when you choose, it kind of shows you, I'm actually going to choose, creates a rectangular polyline. So it actually is a polyline. It's like a dedicated polyline to a rectangle or square. So, but this would be a normal way of drawing your is to draw this rectangle is going to be just following the command line, specify first corner point and then a second corner point. And I think the first always is kind of like the top left, and then it pulls. Well, I could go this way too. So it depends on which way you want to pull your cursor. Doesn't necessarily have to be top left, even though it's going to be the 2 points across from itself, like the icon kind of shows you. You're going to pick a point to kind of specify where it is and then how big to stretch it to. So let's do a rectangle. Here's the first point. Here's the second point. Okay, great. There's a rectangle. It was just kind of a non-controlled one. I just did it by clicking and dragging. So let's do it a little bit more controlled. It's actually sized how I want it to be. So if I'm going to pick the same command, and maybe I'll just keep it in line here, not for any reason, but because. What you'll notice is really, if I just pull away and don't click the second time, I am actually, my cursor is highlighting the kind of the width of this rectangle. And so I can input a data point. I can actually input a number there. And so it's not just some random number, or I don't have to really like pull this to be the actual number, which could be kind of hard to get it to be exactly 6 inches. I just enter that. So I'm gonna push, I'm just gonna do 6, but don't push enter. Maybe I'll say it's 6 wide. Entered 6 there. To get to the other box, because I have, if you notice, it's the grade box that says 375 right now. To get over there, you just hit tab. So this is gonna be a common command we use a lot to when you have multiple inputs on geometry, in order to get around to them, it's just tab. And then I'm over to the other input point. And you can see that it kind of established a little lock on that rectangular width. It said, oh, he put it, I put in 6, it's locked. And now this way, maybe I'll put in 6 as well. So it'll be the square technically. And then I hit enter, and that's a 6 by 6 rectangle now that I've kind of used the data input area of the cursor. So if I turn off I'm going to try this again. If I turn off my dynamic input, that's down on my status bar, dynamic input. That looks like a plus and a magic wand. I don't know what it is, but it's going to be another. I'm going to try to do the same thing again. But because I don't have dynamic input on, I don't have that as I don't have the option to be like 6 enter 6. It's just like it's not, it doesn't give me that ability. So I'm gonna delete that. That was just a crossing window. Had to select it all and then delete it. So I really, I mostly keep my dynamic input on all the time because I do a lot of the units input while I'm in the command. I'm generally inputting a dimension for whatever I'm drawing in most situations. So, okay, excellent. What else we got? We can do ellipses. An ellipse. I think we covered this a little bit in theory, so I don't think I'll go into too deep here and when we will use it. I'm trying to think of a drawing off the top of my head that will use an ellipse, but I'll keep it there. But it's like a modified, it's like an oval, I guess, it's just an oval, but it does have there are some the reasons why I would need to draw an ellipse because of how things look in orthographic projection when they're not. So it's like when circles appear, when you look at a circle if you look at a circle on the side or from a slightly different angle than direct on, it starts to look like elliptical. It starts to make a circle into an oval. I don't know if I can replicate that on here with my circles that I have. If I roll, yeah, I will. So here's my tutorial on what an ellipse is. Here, I'm on 2D space, and I've drawn my circles here all over this place. So let's just take a look at this circle close. First one I drew. What an ellipse is when I'm looking at a circle, but at a slightly different projection angle, like my viewing plane changes from being direct on as a circle. an ellipse is what is formed. And I can do that by kind of rotating my navigation there. Rotate that and there. I haven't done anything, I haven't changed the geometry of that circle. All I've changed is I'm viewing it slightly different. The circle becomes an ellipse. Yeah, it seems like a pretty simple thing to realize, but it actually has pretty powerful implications to how my drawings, how I represent drawings, and how features of drawings when I'm changing my viewing perspective. So, yeah, that actually is what an ellipse is. Kind of has like a major and a minor diameter. There are two different diameters associated with this now, even though when I'm looking dead on it, it's just a circle. But when I change my perspective, I've kind of got two things going on, two different diameters to consider. So if I look at what the commands are for that, it's like a center. It wants to know like where an ellipse might live. Here's just a center. And then it wants to know, well, what is like the diameter in the horizontal or in the vertical? I could go either one first, but maybe I would say it's to this direction. And then in what angle? Oh, I don't know. I'll keep it at 0. And then I have this. Then now I'm establishing the other diameter. So it's kind of weird to draw with them. I established the one dimension that locked in one way, and now it wants me to establish the other dimension here. So maybe it's going to be by 1. So this is maybe a 2 by 1 ellipse. Okay. And I can draw that a different way too. Axis end, an elliptical arc where I can actually kind of piece this ellipse together where it would go. It's not a full ellipse. I just need a partial ellipse. So yeah, it gets a little complicated. The last one, I think I will wait, but it's hatching. And hatching is just if I have an enclosed, we would apply hatching to specify, oh, if I've cut through something and I'm looking at the inside of material, I would create a hatching boundary so that it visually catches my eye that I'm looking through something that's been cut. And it's not that it's actually been cut in real life. It's just that in my drawings, I can actually do invisible cuts and expose insides of things just to show people that might be building stuff that this is what the inside will look like. And sometimes to designate that so we know so that the viewer of my prints knows what's going on, I apply a hatching to that so it's like catches your eye that oh I'm looking at a material that's been like sectioned so I can see inside of it. It doesn't mean I'm going to build it like that, but it means it allows me to view the inside, something that I might be building. Anyway, and then the way that I have a lot of different ways that I can apply a hatch, and we will get into this, especially when we talk about sectioning. So it's nothing we touch for a little bit, but it's right there, hatching. Okay, and now we go to modifying. Okay, I know I have a lot to do, but really I think I just want to cover these two initially, the drawing commands, because that's what we're gonna do is draw using shapes. Then we got to modify those shapes to actually be what I really want to look like. And so in this particular case, I have some stuff to work with here, and there is a move command. So I'll just kind of work through these. This is the last palette I want to get to in this video. To move, it is exactly what it is. And usually I think of like an order of operations as like generally my order of operations in CAD is like I'm going to choose a command and then choose what to do. So I generally don't choose something and then choose the command second. It's always like I've got the idea of like I've got a command, I'm going to choose a command and then do something with it. So I think if that's my primary order of operations with CAD, because we can get confused and like if I go to move something, I can select it first, and it's an object that's selected. It shows me its grips. I could then go into a command with that, but generally my order of operations is command, then what am I doing? So in the case that I actually wanted to move this circle, I feel like a better order of operations would be to say, oh, let's move. Well, what do you want to move? That's what this command tells me at my command line. When I pick move, my command line goes, well, move select objects. Okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to select that object. Cool. I could continue to select a bunch of objects. Like I'm not limited in how much I can select. And I could even do a window crossing to select a mass amount of objects to move or whatever. But generally, the way that this command works is, if I'm going to move something, choose move, choose the objects. Once I'm done choosing objects, I can either left click or hit enter. And so what a lot of people get used to hitting enter. Like that's kind of like that's the only object I want to move. Okay, so hit enter. And then it says specify the base point of how to move this. And really, the base point options you have are object snap. And so what I really have to move this thing or any kind of object snaps that would appear really common in circles to be moving them by their center, keep things organized. So I'm selecting a base point to move it by, and I'm going to say this one, the center. Now I've actually got a hold of this thing, and it shadows where it was, and it kind of shows me where I'm going to move it. And so all I'm going to do is move this one up here, and then I'm going to click again, right click. Well, another thing I want to say is what I don't always push enter to enter my commands. I use a left click. Left click also functions when you're in a command as kind of enter. So it's one way it breaks my hand away from the keyboard a little bit because I'm like, oh, I'm already on the mouse. I'll just left click. So what that looks like is move command. I'm going to move this object, then I left click. And that actually functions as enter. And so that's usually my go-to way of like right click and then left click is enter. I use my left click as enter a lot. So by the center down to here, that command's over. Move. Copy. Copy means I need more than one. And to me, it functions a lot like move, but I'm going to copy this one. Now I don't want to just move the one. I need to make another one of those. So I'm going to copy. Same way I could use crossing windows to select stuff. I could use that wasn't the best crossing window. It would look more like this if it was a true crossing window. Of course, that one only selected what was totally underneath it. If I did the other copy from this way, and I only grabbed, it'll grab whatever is partially underneath it. So it's going to grab that line and that one circle as what is underneath that. Always get familiar with that crossing circle and the crossing lasso. So I'm going to copy, maybe I'm going to copy this. And sometimes you'll see me do this kind of stuff. Yeah, I'm going to copy it. I'm just going to grab a little lasso and grab that. Um, so copy this one, select objects. Same way, I'm going to left click or you could hit enter. And then it's going to want to know the base point to copy from. So maybe I'll pick a quadrant this time. I'm going to copy from here, and then I just have control from there, essentially, is what it is. And maybe I need to pull it up this far. Like it is like here's another thing that I haven't said before, but when you're moving stuff like this, if there is a specific measurement that you're moving this by, I can enter that in the I can enter that in the command prompt area. I know it doesn't look blue or whatever, but I think if I pull this away, it's showing me like linear movement away, 7.5 inches away, 8, 9, 10 inches away from that point that I'm copying from. And I'm maintaining like that 90-degree relationship. If I pulled off, that's going to change a little bit. But right here, I'm pretty sure I could just say, oh, like 10 inches away, and there it would be. 10 inches enter. The copy command stays functioning. So it's like just because I placed one doesn't mean I've exited the command yet. It's ready to do another copy because it's pretty common to do one object, copy it multiple times. Um, so it kind of keeps you in the command. In order to leave it, you just hit escape. And if I only wanted one, I did that accidentally, I could just delete it, cross it and delete, stretch it. Oh, this will be a good one to stretch. Another one that I don't use a lot, like stretch, it wants me to select the object. So maybe I'll select this and then I'm going to hit enter or a left click for me and then specify the base point. So maybe I'll say from here and then I'll stretch. I don't think this is going to do what I want it to. That's almost going to do like a move because that is a joined polygon there. It's all joined. If I would have done these as lines, so then I could actually stretch it. So let me see what that would look like. I'm going to jump ahead to one, stretch, rotate, mirror. Let's come back to stretch for a minute and scale. I'm going to do these in just a minute here. And I might do array a little bit later as well. Okay. So let's do rotate because this one doesn't need a lot. I mean, I can rotate what I've got here. So I'm going to do a rotate command. Rotate wants me to select objects. You'll see that's a real common thing is like this modify panel is always like choose the command, then select the objects, whatever you're going to use this on. I'm going to rotate this maybe to a diamond shape. So I'm going to just only select that. Right click or press, sorry, left click or press enter. Wait, right click. Sorry, I'm saying left click when I mean right click, but I'm actually right clicking for enter, and I may have said left click. So that should be an edit to my video. The way I probably misspoke, but it's actually a right click to be enter to accept that command that functions as enter. Dang, I probably have messed up for the last 10 minutes of talking, but rotate this object. Now right click. And then it says specify the base point, pretty common. I'm going to specify this kind of geometric center. And then it's like, go ahead and rotate this how? I'm going to rotate it like, I'm going to rotate it, 45 degrees. So I think I can say 45 degrees. Specify angle of rotation. Yeah. So I rotated by angle there. Yeah, that looks good. Mirror. Mirror is going to function just like a mirror. It wants you to like establish a mirror plane, like where the mirror actually lives. So if I think I can mirror image this one here. Yeah, I think so. What it'll be is I'll choose mirror and I'll choose an object. I'm gonna mirror this diamond that I've created now. So I'm gonna do that, and then I'm actually gonna hit right click, which is my enter command or enter. Then it wants me to establish the first point of a mirror line or kind of like a mirror plane or whatever. And so really it doesn't have to be anywhere, but I think I'm gonna insert kind of a mirror plane here. So I'm gonna pick this point, kind of polar track up here. Here's the first point of the mirror plane. It needs 2 points to kind of create a line or a plane to mirror across. So I'm gonna pick this. It's actually not doing a drawing, it's just establishing these 2 points. And then I'm gonna do this one here. Yes, like that. Of course, wherever I put that mirror plane is where it's going to mirror that over to. I'm going to do it totally in orthographic alignment here. So this is my second point, and then it goes into this erase source objects because sometimes maybe I had something misplaced. I'm mirroring it over to the other place, and then I'm going to erase that source object. This in this particular case, maybe I'll keep it. So I'll say erase, and I like that the default is no, don't erase source object. So if as long as I just hit enter, um, it won't erase my source object. If I enter Y or click on yes there, it will get rid of it. So with mirroring that little prompt always ends up at the end, whether you're going to erase or keep your source object. Okay. The next most like critical, we're going to use the heck out of this command. It's trim. So it's just like it is. It's a little scissor. A lot of times when I'm drawing stuff, I use geometry to create other geometry, and then I trim it to become what I want it to become. So what that looks like here is maybe I drew this arc and I overextended past this, and I really wanted this to end right there, tangent on that circle. Well, I can use that trim command for that. Trim, which is also, I think, probably TR. Let me see. Some people use this a lot with their, I think TR is going to be your trim. And what it does is you can now like I'm active in the command, whether I chose it or I entered it, trim. Now that when I start going over stuff, it will like show you how it can trim stuff. If it gives this little prompt here, like, yeah, there, it shows you what that's going to do is it's going to trim from whatever like other geometric shapes are there to trim to. Like, so it could kind of trim that circle and only leave the segment of that circle that would be um yeah, that would be left there, and it would hook in with that arc, and it would hook in. Yeah, it would only leave what's showing there, and I would trim whatever shows as the red X. And it kind of gives you that shaded view. If I just want to trim that, yeah. So I might trim this. I'll just trim that. Then I have this like shape coming up to there. That looks pretty good. I could trim this extra off too. It'll only trim what crosses it, so it has to actually be crossing it, touching it, tangent. The reason why I could trim there is because there's that single point of tangency there. So if it won't trim what you think it should be able to trim, it's just because there's just nothing, like in the case of trim in this circle, there's just nothing that would make sense for it to trim. And you get this little zero with an X in it, meaning technically you have this geometry, but it only really touches something else right there. So trim really functions in relation to other objects and how they relate to one another as I move around. Yeah. I can trim these. I can trim that. Some of this I can trim. Just some it will say I can't. Oh, I can trim that out almost as an erase. I'm surprised this one it won't because it has that one point of tangency. It'll trim that out. Yeah. So it's good to get to familiar with the functionality. It can be a little frustrating to feel like I should be able to trim that, but maybe I've got like a point that's not touching exactly right, and there's no ability for it to know how to trim. But we'll use it a lot, trim. And the drop down behind it is extend. And like if I had a line that was kind of across here and there, I just put some random line in. I was using some object snaps to actually touch that. I don't know what it, I actually don't, I should have done that quite so fast. I wanted to see what was the object snap coming up. Just kind of this intersection, like this X. I think X is like an object snap intersection. Let me double check that. Yeah, the X is the intersection icon. So it can that's one that I have selected so it will come up. Um, Essentially just some random line and where it would intersect anything is a place that I could snap to. So I know that these I mean these lines are like absolutely object snapped to that. The other end they are not. They kind of just and that was me a double click to zoom extent. See, it's going to like if I was way here and I lost everything, I'm like, where'd my drawing go? Double click. Yeah. The other option you have for that is Control Z. I think that no, Control Z is it's just Z. It's just zoom. So don't do the control. Control Z is undo. If you just do zoom, Z, zoom, I think I could actually build this zoom I could actually like Z for zoom. I could actually build this little thing to zoom to, like a little box that I'm building. Z all or ZX zoom extents. Let me see. There's some other keyboard ones. ZX. No, I'd have to look at my what's zoom, what's Z zoom. Oh, one thing that would help you is if I looked at my command line. So when I'm in the zoom command, which is kind of a unique to, I don't have like a zoom up here. Zoom is definitely a unique like keyboard shortcut. Z for zoom, enter. My command line says, well, what do you want to do? You want to zoom all, zoom center, zoom dynamic, zoom extents. All and extents are very similar. So now if I hit A, enter, it'll bring that out. So kind of like a double click on the mouse wheel. So it's just another, you know, redundant set of commands that we have. Um, but I wanted to show that one because this is when you get lost, is when you have something and you go like way off, and you don't know where it is. My go-to is always to double click on the mouse wheel, but you have other options. Think if you can't ever remember what to do, just always think Z for zoom, and it should come up. A or E for extents. A would work for all. Yeah. What I was going to show you was the opposite of trim is extend. And so if I have something that I needed to actually go over, like I want this line to actually extend, yes, I could come in here and select the line and grab the grip and then also use that intersection. Like I could do that a little bit manual, but these lines have grips. They are meant to be gripped. And as long as I'm kind of have my object snap tracking on, I can kind of keep it in alignment and not pull it off. The problem with grabbing grips and moving it is it will allow you to kind of pull something out of alignment potentially. So, like in this, if I needed to maintain this truly horizontal line, an extend is actually a really good option for that. So, if I go down here to the drop down and hit extend, and then choose an object to, it's going to be that. And it almost automatically knows, well, this is what I can do. I'm already bound on the one side, but on the left side, I'm not. So, I'm going to extend to the next geometric kind of shape or feature. And so, and then it'll stop there. So, extend I use a lot when I don't want to use a grip and pull something out of alignment. So extend is your friend. I feel like students kind of forget about that one. Uh, and I think I use it a lot. Whatever you've used last on your drop down is always what's showing. So sometimes you forget where trim is, but it shares with extend. And then we have fillet and chamfer, which are very, very specific features. Uh, so let's see how this goes. And I think this one confuses students too. So let's do fillet and chamfer. So fillet is uh, is going to be a rounded feature instead of a sharp feature. So in this rectangular's case, this rectangle, I definitely have sharp corners, and in some machine manufacturing, sharp corners are a must, and sometimes our sharp corners are uh, prone to injuring someone. And so it depends on what my part is specifically that I might have a fillet on. I might have a round on the end. And so a fillet and a round maybe are used kind of similar terminology, but I'm going to put a round edge on this corner. So fillet is kind of weird. It's one that I really have to watch the command line on. When I choose the fillet command, it always wants to know like I guess it says select the first object. And then it says select the second object or radius. And so I feel like if I just selected the second object, it did it. It almost was like done. It's like, yep, I did what you needed. I did what you needed to do. But you're like, wait, it didn't do anything. This thing is still sharp and round. Yeah, it's because unfortunately the default, I wish they would have made the default CAD to be like I don't know, an eighth of an inch radius or something. But for whatever reason, the default radius on a fillet is 0. So it doesn't look like you've done a dang thing. And so that's kind of frustrating. And so what you kind of have to remember is to input, I think at any time in the command sequence, I can input what the radius is. So I think I usually try to remember like first, like I'm going to do fillet. My go-to is like, if I'm looking at my command line, it's just let's specify a radius. Generally, fillets are done by radius and not by diameter. So maybe I'm going to pick R for radius. So I hit enter or I hit R, enter. And then it says specify the fillet radius. Okay, so maybe on this one I want it to be a quarter inch. That's 0.25. I don't enter fractions. I usually enter the decimal equivalents here. Can I enter fractions? Probably. I just never do. But it's like a quarter inch, maybe like this. Quarter, enter. I think it will accept a fractional. I should know that. It's funny that I don't. I just don't use fractional inputs very much, but I tried it there. Yeah, fractional input will go in. Then it's like, well, then select the first object. Okay, it's this corner, and then select the second object. It's this corner. Bam. And then it does it because I actually input a dimension. That was a quarter inch fillet. When you choose it that way, it's only just one and done. It's just like one fillet done. If I'm watching my command line and in this particular case, maybe I want to do all four corners at the same time. You can do that within the command if you're just paying attention. So let me do it now with the remaining three. And the nice thing is once I've input a fillet on mine, I think it's going to come up as the next one. It's not like the first one where the default was 0. I think the next time I use fillet command, it's going to use whatever you use last. So I mean, there is some data that stays in here, but let's see. So if I choose fillet again, fillet command, select the radius. So if I actually was like, well, what is it? I'm going to hit my radius, enter. It's already loading that it's a quarter inch radius. So it does remember my last input. And so technically I wouldn't have to input that again. This is confusing to some students that once I've actually put in a radius I want to use, I could just choose fillet and now choose these two. And it's going to remember the last one I used, just default to 0. So the first time you use it, it's not good. That's probably the first time you use it every day. I'm going to undo this though, because I want to show you how to do multiple. Fillet. I know that the radius is loaded, but even if I didn't, I could hit R for radius. Oh, it's quarter inch. That's cool. I don't want to change it. Just go ahead and hit enter again or right click. Now select the first object. But actually, before I do this, this is when it's critical to say, if I'm going to do multiple, do them, enter multiple now. So one of my options on the command line is M for multiple. So I'm going to hit M, enter, or right click. And then it knows I'm in a multiple sequence. So it's not going to exit my command after one, but it does still want me to start choosing. So I'm going to choose this one to this one. There's the fillet radius. But now, because I entered multiple, it's going to allow me to continue to go. Some of the commands automatically are built in to continue to go. For whatever reason, fillet is just not. It's kind of like functions as a one and done, unless you're savvy enough to remember to hit M for multiple. And I often forget it until I do one, and then I realize I should have hit multiple. But essentially, yeah. Now it'll want me to keep going if I was able, but to actually totally exit the command, I can either right click or hit enter. That was me like right clicking, and then it brought up the enter command. So okay, fillets. The opposite of that would be chamfers. Not opposite, but a like function of that would be chamfers, only not with a round edge, but uh, a beveled edge kind of is what we would look at this. So chamfer also can be used for a lot of different purposes in mechanical applications. Um, A bevel is one, but there's reasons why I would chamfer corners down or chamfer, yeah, we'll see chamfers and fillets a lot. So first line, I think it's similar, like it's a little bit different. I mean, it has some similarities. If I just want to see what is doing at default. I would choose here. I would choose here. Nothing would happen because its default is also zero. Just like fillet's default was zero, chamfer's default is zero. We really, if we're going to actually chamfer, we need a distance. Like if I come and zoom into this point, what I really need is a distance from like here to here and here to here, and where I'd want to chop that off at, kind of a triangular chop off here. So I can input that measurement. And a lot of times chamfers are like when they're on our drawings and when they're on our parts, usually there is a dimension associated with the chamfer. It's a common machining uh to break an edge and add a chamfer on a lot of different machining parts. And so just like a round is really common, also a chamfer is really common. So I think I can enter the distance first. So I think I can, on this one I enter D for distance. And then it says specify first chamfer distance because with a chamfer, if I'm thinking about from this corner over to here and this corner over to here, and then I'm going to cut off this corner and make it kind of flat here. I really am. There is two distances that I'm dealing with. I'm dealing with how far it is from this point over to here cut off, and I'm dealing how far it is from here to here. Like a lot of chamfers are uniform distance, so it's like the same for both, but I can do unequal leg chamfers, unequal distances. So that is a thing. And so that's why it wants to know what's the first chamfer distance. Well, let's do like I don't know, let's do a 1/4 inch chamfer here. So I'm going to say the first distance is 1/4 inch from kind of the point out to the edge. Then it wants to know, well, what's the second? Well, it's going to load the last one I just entered. So it's 0.25. So maybe I'll just hit enter again. I'm going to do an equal leg chamfer. And then it wants to know the geometry. So I entered, and I pretty much just entered 0.25 and then hit enter twice. I've got an equal chamfer. Now select the geometry that's going to be affected by this chamfer. Well, it's this point and it's this point. And you can see it, that's how it shows up. It starts to already like cut that off. So that is a chamfer. I mean, from top down, it looks like this. I don't have any, like in none of these shapes I've drawn do I have any like depth perception of what they look like. But if this was like a dice cube, don't think about what's the other one on a diamond here, but if this was a dice cube that went, 3 inches towards me or away from me, if I was looking at the top view like this and I didn't know how deep it was, well, that little edge chamfer would kind of follow itself all the way down to the bottom of this cube if it was a cube. So, so chamfers in other views will look different than they do. Like this top view of a chamfer is going to look different than what that chamfer is going to look like in a front view. Okay, so an unequal leg chamfer is just inputting two different dimensions for those distances. And I would say we don't do a lot of unequal leg chamfers for a little while here. So just something to be aware of. And then these last three are the ones I'm going to talk about. And then I'll save, stretch, scale, and array. But they are just, and I'm going to save them for just because I don't want to talk too much longer. It's already been a long time. But so let's finish up. Erase is one that you can use, kind of like delete. Like I can pick erase and go and select stuff that I might erase. But I feel like it works a lot like trim, and I feel like I use trim more than I use erase, or I actually use the delete key more than I use the erase. So I feel like erase to me I don't use a lot, but some people do. Some people just, it's a nice visual icon. It's an eraser. It kind of works like trim. It kind of works like delete. So it's not that you can't use it. It's just that I probably use trim and delete, the actual delete button on my keyboard more, but does the same thing, similar things. And then this one, which has no description, but if I hold over it, it's explode. And so this one is super useful um, to explode the geometry. And so on the last video, when I showed you the difference between line and polyline, is when I made my shape with my line, I kind of made this closed, slightly rectangular with a beveled edge on it shape. And then when I was done drawing it, each line segment was still separate. It wasn't a joined like polygon whatsoever. It was just, it was just lines that kind of connected to each other. And so what that is it's kind of an exploded polygon. Like it's all the lines are kind of separate and independent of themselves. And then when I drew the polyline shape, And I finished and it was all connected. It was all like when I hovered over and selected it, it selected the entire thing as one, like as this joined polygon. And so the explode command is usually used to like explode the geometry that would otherwise already be like a joined polygon. So it's actually to explode joined geometry. So like where I could use that is this should be joined geometry, right? This was a mirror. So I drew this initial rectangle here. Right. So when I did that, it is even polygon. That's why when you're done, it's seamless. Yeah, polygon. Let's pull out of the view that I have that same, I had that in before I canceled, but the year ago when I class was, but I didn't want it. But near it before I canceled, this point, polygon, if what explode does, then the cube explode, and cube this thing, something out there, it has to be something that can't explode. That's the shape of it. Just like if you know, a lot, only chicken, only chicken. This before. Why this is coming out, why this is coming out, what I have out there, I think the property. It's just something that I like. Just give me a quick identifier of what you're doing, so I can honestly show them. I think you can put this out. You may not have it if I can hide it inside of there. I can put it off, then I don't need that. But so I think if it rips and it gets something like so it's up to me, right? This can be a little bit of annoying. I use it as never enough. The quick problem you have it on. I can't. So the strategy of this is that I have full gas. It's moving it, moving a little. Uh, changing some line type. Like I get, like it's not the whole property power, but it has some like property. Why? So you can change back. We talk about it. When you drop that, it's like you know, okay. Like it's always, I could always undo or whatever. It's where the only word I think something. The strategy involved in this something. It's really moving and copying stuff, but it's not going. So having like speeds up its process. Single things. The other thing you use quite a bit of fusion. We use quite often in the stuff. This one. I've got the back one way I like it. So, offsetting any it'll offset whatever you get on the field. So whether it's full field from this why we do whatever. You use it on and we'll use it on our temple construction. So I definitely do a lot of stuff. This video is really well. So choose it and first So specified options. I like this. I wish that the fillet great. I wish the fillet chamfer command dynamic input showed like this. Because this is obvious that the first thing I need to do is specify a distance. And a lot of times when I'm offsetting stuff, I do know the distance that I'm offsetting. I'm doing this strategically. So let's say that this particular line here, I need to move it a half an inch up here. So I'm going to say it's going to be, I need a half inch movement of this line. So I specify the offset distance first, enter. Now, what am I offsetting? I think I determined I'm going to offset this particular line. Excellent. And now what it's doing is it's already locked in that that's a half inch. I pre-loaded that I'm going to offset this line by a half inch. So what it's doing is it's showing me I can either offset to the bottom or to the top a half inch. It'll let me do either one, wherever I hover my cursor and wherever whatever direction I really need to go with this. So I'm going to go up above it. So I'm going to move my cursor up. I still haven't clicked anything, and then I'm just going to go ahead and click because the half inch I already input. I could change that now here if I decided actually that wasn't right. And that's handy because it'll always want to offset your last distance that you entered. And sometimes when sometimes I skip through that too fast and I'm ready to offset and I'm like, oh, actually I needed to be 3/4 of an inch, 1 inch, whatever it was here. Half inch is what I had planned anyway. So I'll just say enter. And it didn't do it because why? I don't know. Let's do it again. This thing sometimes my order of operations is off. Specify offset distance. I love half inch. So I'm going to say yes, enter. Select this, enter, yes. Oh yeah, I don't know why. It's for whatever reason it just didn't click right to me. But it did the second time I did it, like no problem. It's just a matter of a left click to select that as the upper side of the line. So that's now a half inch apart. It doesn't mean that it kept it bound by the geometry. Like it is like the line that I actually offset, was bound by this arc and by this arc of the tangent or, that circle that we chopped. In this case, it didn't. If I zoom in on this, I will see that they're disconnected here. So this is something you have to pay attention to when you offset. It doesn't always the thing with AutoCAD is there's still some manual things that can go awry here. There's still a lot of human error that can happen here. So this is one where probably students are really quick to just select it, grip it, and pull it. I always hesitate that because of the alignment issues that can happen. You can just pull stuff out slightly out of alignment you didn't realize that you did. So this is a perfect place for extend. Yes, now that I know that it's bound to that line now, and a great place to use a trim, which would be TR for some people. Yeah, we'll be able to exit that and say TR trim and do that. Now I've got it bound in there. Yeah, that's it. That is an overview of draw and modify. It's going to be the bulk of what we do, especially for these first few assignments where we're just drawing geometry and we're not dimensioning it. The next one that we get to is annotation, but the next video actually will be layers. So the next video will be actually setting up layers. And what I mean by this whole layers palette is I'm drawing on a 0 layer. That's the only layer I have available to me. That's how every like default drawing might come, is that it's just a total blank slate for you to create with. But when it really comes to drawing some like complicated drawings, I need to be able to um, establish some layers and draw some things on one layer and be able to turn them on and off. So let's explore that in the next video. That's it for this one. I know it's kind of long-winded, but I wanted to explain those. So let's wrap this one up.